Hello again. It's your local goober and critical dipshit here to talk about Helluva Boss again. But this time, it's not much criticism, it's sort of an analysis of the breakup that happened in the last episode. That one actually got pretty spicy. They finally went all the way in on the hang-ups that Blitz and Stolitz have. The intro song hints at things getting pretty tense later in the episode, because they both have different worries going into it. Most of Stolitz's worries seem to be about the transactional nature of the relationship, while Blitz's seem to be more about the distance that's grown between the two of them. But he just plays it off and decides to focus on the sex aspect that it's mostly been about. But it's not quite as big of a deal for Blitz as it is for Stolitz, because for Stolitz it's all he has left, whereas Blitz, his business runs on it, but his business has been going well lately. His social life has been sorted out pretty well too, as we see with the packed calendar and his visit with Fizz. I think the song actually informs and even colors quite a bit of what we see towards the end of the episode, because Stolitz is wildly worried about it, whereas Blitz almost seems irritated or annoyed that it's on his mind. Stolitz wants an answer, but it doesn't seem like he's too focused on an explanation behind whatever answer he gets. Hence why he says, "Set us free, whatever it may be." It kind of makes me think of the song "Come As You Are." But going into it, we already know that Blitz does not have the emotional stuff in mind. He's pushed it off and focusing entirely on what their relationship has been for the most part, sex. The namesake of the ring they're on. But Stolitz starting off with asking for the book back permanently was either a big oopsie on his part, or it was bait to see how Blitz would react. Considering how nervous he's been about the whole thing, I'm willing to bet it was bait. Either way, it immediately put Blitz on the defensive, and feeds into Stolitz's fear of this just being a carnal thing, as Blitz outright says, "My end of the bargain." Keyword bargain. They did a wonderful job with the expressions in this scene though, because you can see the mix of disappointment and worry on Stolitz's face. But on top of what Blitz says is how he says it. He doesn't sound the slightest bit sad about missing those nights with Stolitz, which further feeds into what Stolitz is already worrying about. And Blitz's bittersweet tone and phrasing of wanting to make tonight nice makes Stolitz tense up and sound a mix of disgusted and guilty, because it's bringing back the worry and doubt that this really is just a carnal thing. Blitz tries to entice him into making it just a simple, lustful night, but Stolitz isn't having it. Part of him wants to fold, but instead he doubles down, walking over to the bookshelf with the grimoire in hand. And just like that, Blitz cracks as he sees possibly his livelihood walking away. And some of his confidence issues come leaking out as he begs for the book. The book. It actually felt a little manipulative to me rather than just his personal issues coming out. I might start to sound like a broken record, but it once again highlights the transaction of sex for book that the relationship started with. Stolitz probably wanted to talk it out with a heart-to-heart before revealing the crystal, and he was sitting on the bed after all. Odds are a heart-to-heart first would have gone better, but he's got more than enough proof already to see that Blitz is hung up on the book, thanks to it being key to his work. But Stolitz prepped for this and cuts the thread that got them together in the first place, ending any obligation Blitz has to be with him by giving him that crystal. He even almost chokes up as his earlier worry about the relationship being him shackling Blitz's livelihood to himself and his grimoire hits him right in the face. But he continues with the explanation regardless. Again, the expressions are extremely well done here. The voice acting too, because how something is said is just as, if not more important than what gets said. I'm pretty sure Blitz sees what's happening here, what Stolitz is doing. He's not that dumb, but he doesn't believe it. Whether that's because he doesn't want to believe it or because his already shaken up self-confidence keeps him from believing it, I'm not sure. But he seems pretty uncomfortable with the idea of there not being any obligation to see Stolitz anymore, despite literally holding a mostly free ticket from the whole situation. At that point, Stolitz has explained it pretty well business-wise, so he drops the professional talk completely and outright bluntly states what's been on his mind. There is no way to really confuse what he's saying, unless someone is being willfully ignorant. He lays it all out, even calling himself out for making it an exchange of sex for the grimoire without fully knowing what Blitz felt about it, or how he felt about it. And once again, the looks they're giving each other and the delivery of these lines is, it's perfect. But there's something missing for being the one holding the reins for so long. A sorry. Actions speak louder than words, and the crystal is a hell of an apology, but a sorry really wouldn't hurt. Still, it's a beautiful moment, and Blitz's expressions say a whole lot. Not only is he seeing it, he's hearing it and listening to it. We know that he was worried about it being complicated that same morning. He's been avoiding Stolitz, postponing something heavy and heart-wrenching that he could feel was coming. He's avoidant. That's what he's done. We've seen it bite him in the ass a few different times now. But he still doesn't believe it. It doesn't even seem like he wants to, so he plays it off, even jokes it off. I'm surprised the emotional backlash didn't knock Stolitz over as he stands up, lets out a business phrase thank you for the time they spent together, and then it looks like he shuts down. I've seen a bunch of takes on this breakup, people siding with Blitz, people siding with Stolitz, and quite a few people somewhere in the middle. And I'm not going to outright say who I side with, that would spoil things. But I've been in a situation similar to this 2 different times on either side of it. And I relate pretty closely to a handful of Blitz's personal issues, so I thought I'd dig deep and share my view of it, right when it breaks. And I've talked about it before, so I should do my due diligence and really see it through. Blitz's initial reaction to Stolitz standing up and walking off is distressed. There's more worry in his tone than anything, but the "you were serious" that follows is so rough. There's equal parts annoyance and outrage in his tone. The outrage isn't damning, it could come from a lot of places, like frustration over Stolitz getting heavy with the feelings seemingly out of nowhere, but they weren't a surprise. He knows that. He just didn't expect it to happen tonight. He got caught off guard and just made a pretty catastrophic blunder. And again, he knows it. Which is where I hoped the annoyance would come from, but it sounds a lot more like it's aimed at Stolitz. Now, that's not outright damning by itself, but it's really bad. Still, Blitz didn't have hardline, solid, irrefutable proof that Stolitz wanted to go steady to him, to be serious. He's been dodging his questions, as we heard with the song that the episode started with. So maybe he figures that if Stolitz really is that serious, then he'll double down on those questions and force an answer out of him. But he hasn't said that to him, just like Stolitz hasn't actually forced the point until that night. It seems like Stolitz expected to be turned down, though, for everything to go south, so when he got what looked like a clear enough sign, he folded, he gave up. I really can't blame him either, because the mocking that followed him pouring his heart out gave even me secondhand heartache, and I'm a decently harsh guy. But Blitz does something that goes against a lot of what we've seen or heard about with his rocky past. He follows Stolitz, even runs to catch up. That alone makes it clear that he cares, but it's not clear what he cares about exactly. Stolitz lays out why he's torn up, and once again, chokes up. I think at least part of him realizes the mistake about not being clearer about his feelings before tonight, and it sounds an awful lot like he writes the relationship off. Just in time for Blitz to finish the 180 from a lack of confidence to being absolutely livid. The what that he starts his tirade with is a lot softer than the rest. He even sounds hurt. Then the outrage overflows and he gets real mean. But he does demand some time to think before getting particularly rude, which doesn't strike me as a bad move. And as he gets rude, we see his dislike of royalty come up for the first time in a while. It colors his outburst pretty clearly as his insecurities leak into the outrage. But most importantly, he deflects the whole time. There's not even the tiniest bit of recognition for his part in this. It takes two to make a deal, just like it takes two to have a relationship. Yeah, the power dynamics will vary wildly, but emotions can level the playing field no matter how wildly skewed the power dynamics are. Stolitz got down to eye level with Blitz while pouring his heart out. He was willing to be vulnerable without even being asked. I'd even say he put himself at Blitz's mercy. It might sound a little overdramatic, but he gave Blitz free rein to make his choice and speak his mind. And with that free rein, Blitz brought his guard back up and decided to shout and deflect, a lot like Stella, which could pretty easily dredge up some trauma for Stolitz. But, unlike Stella, you can hear that he's hurt by it. It stings. He's not shouting just because he's upset about being used and wants to get one over on Stolitz, though I'm sure that's part of it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have teared up. There's no way that was the whole thing. He wants to have a shouting match, to hash it out raw and unfiltered. Stolitz set him free, which means now it's time to freely speak his mind. With who we've seen Blitz have spats with before, it seems an awful lot like that's what he's used to doing. Having shouting matches. It might even be what he's most comfortable with. Because he avoids things. He waits until things spill over, until the cup overflows, until he can't control the outburst, and neither can whoever he's with, so they snap and go back and forth. But he hit home really, really hard, probably without meaning to, as he hears Stolitz barely keep it together without returning any of the vitriol that Blitz just hit him with. His anger drops like that as he starts to reach out and apologize, realizing that he's staring at living proof that not all royals are asshats. Just for Stolitz to make his own catastrophic blunder and call it off before giving Blitz time to cool down or process it. It interrupts the apology and denies Blitz closure. It seems to me that he assumed that Blitz had been agonizing over it just like him, that he already had his thoughts and feelings mostly sorted out, so the outburst that confirms all of his fears was a long time coming. He was just too naive to see it before. At least, that seems an awful lot like what would go through his head. And that's when I realized that he didn't shut down earlier. He still heard and listened to Blitz, but having his worries vindicated and fears realized so suddenly and with such a harsh tone, had him listening to what was being said and how it was said, but not why. Because Blitz clearly cares a lot. We could see it on his face earlier, and we saw it again when he teared up. But during that tirade, we can hear how invested he is. Otherwise, he wouldn't be that worked up that suddenly. It hit him real hard, too. But he was too busy avoiding what he knew was coming to get his feelings on it even partially sorted. So he blew up, and it all flooded out, leaving Stolitz thinking, it's over. And Blitz, he doesn't have proper closure. I'm willing to bet he's going to be chasing that down, and we'll see if they actually hash things out properly or not. It's really good to see that they have really found their footing again. At first, I kind of thought a lot of the episode was set up to be a bit of a nothing burger for the majority of its runtime, but then they had the trio of cherubs and the imp crew deal with each other to make sure that Blitz and Stolitz could have a proper one-on-one. Unfortunately, it was not the heart-to-heart that either of them needed. I had only watched the episode a couple nights ago, as of posting this video. I'm a little bit late to the party, but it wasn't as rough as I thought it would be, considering what I'd been reading. I thought I would pick a side a lot more clearly, but this time, no, they both screwed up pretty royally in their own ways. Although I would definitely say that Blitz shit the bed a little harder this time. I'm interested to see what other people think about this, though, so if you'd like to start a conversation in the comments, go for it. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, you know the whole deal. Until next time, whenever the mania grabs me again. Oh man, drinking in this thing is not easy. Oh, mamma mia. It gets hot in this too.